Hi, this is Dr. Duke, and I'm joined today by State Rep for South Carolina, Stewart Jones from the 14th District. Stewart, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Dr. Duke, great to be here.
Well, it seems like South Carolina's in the news a lot lately. There's a lot of things going on there. And I wanted to talk to you today about red flag laws and what your state is up to with regards to this. A lot of us think that red flag laws are a very bad idea, that it sets a terrible precedent. And when you've got actual Democrat candidates promising that as soon as you elect us, we're going to go way beyond red flags and mandate that you give us back your guns, we have a lot of questions. Tell me what the pulse, you got your finger on the pulse there in South Carolina. Where does South Carolina generally sit with these issues?
Yes, we are completely against any infringement on our Second Amendment. Red flag laws also infringe on due process to a great extent. It accuses somebody and actually tries somebody of a crime before they've literally been tried for that. So it makes you guilty until proven innocent.
I would imagine in a state like South Carolina, which I've been fortunate to visit many times, you have many, many minority gun owners, don't you? Do you find in the state of South Carolina that this is pretty unified across racial lines, that everybody wants the government to stay out of their Second Amendment rights?
Absolutely. And yeah, when you look at the due prospect aspects of what's going on, it's alarming to anybody, to minorities, to anybody who is concerned with keeping the government in check and maintaining their natural right to defense and defend themselves and their families.
So what are you planning in the assembly in South Carolina? First of all, what's the breakdown in terms of who controls what in the government of South Carolina? And what are you guys trying to get implemented to fight this off?
Yeah, absolutely. So real quickly, what we did, I wrote a letter, an op-ed, and the Hill actually picked up the letter, and we got a lot of attention for it. Some of my co-legislators, 43 at this point, have co-signed a letter containing a lot of the data on gun-free zones, on gun ownership, and how it's a critical part of deterring crime and keeping government in check. And so we actually wrote this letter to President Trump asking him to veto any further gun laws, anything that would infringe on our Second Amendment or due process in any capacity. And we're very hopeful that he's going to do that.
So you're in the House and the Assembly. What do you think the tenor of the Senate is to this prospective legislation that you're contemplating?
Yeah. So the good thing is constitutional carry has a really good chance of passing in 2020 in South Carolina. There's been multiple constitutional carry bills that have passed both passed the Senate. One has passed at this point, and there's multiple constitutional carry bills in the House that have a very good chance of passing in 2020. Ultimately, it's laws that remove the barrier of the government. The government's created a barrier to gun owners, and we all know that law-abiding citizens are the ones that follow laws. Criminals never follow those laws. And so really the solution is giving them their ability back just to defend themselves, and that's the best deterrent to crime or to these mass shootings.
So are the bills able to be lined up, do you think, between the Senate and the House? Sometimes the House wants one aspect, the Senate waters down, you go back and forth. What is the common ground, you would say, in the State House in South Carolina between senators and assemblymen? What do you think is the common ground that everybody agrees on?
Well, and what we're working on, I can tell you, so I was sworn into office April 30th, and the South Carolina General Assembly recesses in the second week of May. And so what I saw in that short time this past session, we tried to force a vote on constitutional carry, on continuing debate on it in the off session. And we got 47 voted yes, 53 voted no. So we're still working on it, but those numbers continuously go up. And really the point there that everybody agrees on, I guess, is permitless carry. The fact that law-abiding citizens, law-abiding people, they should not have to go through the government to just exercise their right to defend themselves.
And so you feel there's a pretty good chance in 2020 this is going to go through. Do you have a governor who would be willing to sign this?
I hope so. I sure hope so. Yeah, we're working on them, and we're talking with everybody. And so that one thing about this letter that I'm really proud about is that I've been able to sit down with legislators who agree, disagree, their concerns, and address everybody's concerns in this matter. So we're working toward it.
That was going to be my next question. So this letter's made some noise, and it's got some people signed on to it. It's gotten you national attention for a very good cause. Tell me what kind of inside of South Carolina, what kind of response are you getting outside of the legislature? How are your constituents? How are common citizens in South Carolina reacting to your letter?
Very positive, very positive. I think a lot of these polls, and you have to be really careful because the mainstream media has pushed this narrative that gun violence is on the rise and things like that, when in actuality, looking at the data, looking at statistics, the FBI's own statistics, violent crime has been in decline for over 26 years now. And so South Carolinians know that, and they know that law-abiding gun owners are part of the solution to stopping these crimes.
We know the media in any state, including a southern red state, we know that the media is not going to be on your side in this. Is there other points of contention in the state? Where is the opposition coming from, whether it's politically or elsewhere in your state?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's an uncertainty. There's a lot of people, they see, like I was saying with the mainstream media, they see what's going on. The mainstream media has actually altered the perception of violent crime. And so a lot of people have seen that, and they say, well, we're living in a violent world and things are getting more violent. We need to give government more control to control the guns and that kind of thing. And so that's been the biggest thing to combat, I think, just whether it's a legislator or just a normal citizen, that just getting the facts out there and helping to deter a lot of that miscommunication and downright lies.
Well, off the top of your head, too, do you know, is South Carolina a state that, vis-a-vis the rest of the country, has a higher percentage of legal gun owners, about the same? Do you know where they fall nationwide in terms of the number of citizens who already participate in defending themselves by owning guns?
Yes. So South Carolina does have a lot of citizens that have taken part in the CWP program in South Carolina, and that's part of the concern. One of the legitimate concerns with constitutional carry is addressing the reciprocity, that you can still go over into other states, and that your CWP, you still retain that permit. They still acknowledge it in those other states. But South Carolina has very high gun ownership, and that's increasing. That's one really interesting point, is that gun ownership has increased. Violent crimes have gone down. And the places that you can look at that have enacted these red flag laws, like Chicago, Illinois, there's what happened in Maryland. There's a really well-known case with a guy named Gary Willis, who a family member had reported under one of these extreme protection orders and used a red flag law, a local red flag law, and they went in and killed that man. So with no due process, it's a recipe for disaster.
And last question I wanted to ask you, and we could expand on this a little bit. A lot of the problems in states that have concealed carry, like Wisconsin, is that a lot of universities and a lot of private businesses go gun-free. You can't have your gun here. And inevitably, that's where the shootings occur. Is there any movement in South Carolina to try to push back against gun-free sites on public buildings?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you look at where 94% of the mass shootings have occurred in those gun-free zones, and so that's something we've made it a point to really push out there, talking with the president about that fact, just because it's really, the criminals are going to go to areas where nobody is defending themselves. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And so that's what's going on, and we need to, there's a debate going on with private, take like a commercial business or something like that. I mean, they still have the right to say, we don't want guns on this property, but I don't believe that's good for their customers, as we've seen in many places. So.
Stewart Jones, State Representative from the 14th District of South Carolina. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Take care.